Hello, this is Roy Ivey, and this is Sci-Fi History. Changing times and time. You want to know more about Babylon 5 and the Babylon 5 reboot. How it compares to other reboots and the Star Trek experience. I got it. Don't worry. I got it. Join me, won't you?
It was the year of fire.
The year of destruction.
The year we took back what was ours.
It was the year of rebirth.
The year of great sadness.
The year of pain.
And a year of joy.
It was a new age.
It was the end of history.
It was a year everything changed.
The year is 2261. The place, Babylon 5.
Hello, this is Roy, and this is Sci-Fi History. A Babylon 5 reboot is finally in the works at the CW. Original series creator J. Michael Straczynski, we'll just shorten that to JMS, is on board to write and produce the series. It will be produced by the Warner Brothers Company and shown on the CW. The new iteration of the series is described as a ground-up reboot. In the series, John Sheridan, an Air Force officer with a mysterious background, is assigned the command of Babylon 5, a 5-mile-long space station set in neutral space, a port of call for travelers, smugglers, corporate explorers, and alien diplomats at a time of an uneasy peace and a constant threat of war. His arrival triggers a destiny beyond his imagination, as an exploratory Earth company accidentally triggers a conflict with a civilization a million years ahead of us, putting Sheridan and the rest of his Babylon 5 crew in the line of fire as the last best hope for the survival of the human race. The original Babylon 5 was very innovative. It was designed as a 5-year novel for television. A beginning, a middle, and an end. Nothing like this has ever been done before. Babylon 5 was the first TV series to embrace CGI fully and never used any modeled ships, unless you're talking about virtual models, which they used in CGI. All were cutting edge for their time. Somewhat dated by today's standards, but only marginally so. Always in Babylon 5, it's the story, which Babylon 5 shined at. Much as Gene Roddenberry sold Star Trek as a wagging train to the stars, JMS sold Babylon 5 as Casablanca in space. The characters of Babylon 5 change over time. By the end of the series, no one's the same as when they walked in. And what you think you know at the beginning is something quite different by the end. There's two running stories in Babylon 5 on the most basic of level. The grand tapestry of the great powers working around them, and then how that affects the people on the Babylon 5 station. Great human questions are asked and answered after a fashion. Everyone finds their way on Babylon 5 eventually. There's a great payoff for watching Babylon 5 from beginning to end, and some plot threads are woven throughout the entire series. But you can watch individual installments and still have great value. I urge you to watch the entire run of Babylon 5. Babylon 5 was lucky. It did get its 5 years in and did get a chance to tell its full story. It was never a sure thing. And each year they were always on the cusp of cancellation. They got to year 4, and it looked as though that might be their final year. So there had to be some rearranging by JMS. It was a very talented writer who got everything into season 4 that needed to be a part of the main story, which made season 4 action-packed. JMS even made the concluding episode, which was a time jump, but would serve as the end of Babylon 5 if needed. As it turns out, they were renewed for the 5th season because the 4th season was so good. The 5th season had plenty of action and was very interesting, but not quite as intense as previous seasons. But there was still great value, and Babylon 5 had its story told. Interesting thing is that Babylon 5 had struggled for that renewal every year it was on. But when they got to the end of season 5, Warner Brothers wanted to renew the show. But JMS came back to him. The story is done. The story has been told. Everything he had set out to do, he had done in Babylon 5. The story of Babylon 5 was complete. The stories of those characters, those most important characters in Babylon 5, had been told. But there were other stories that could be told in the Babylon 5 universe, and he came up with several over time. Babylon 5 Crusade, which would have been a great show, and ran for 1 season. But due to politics, Warner Brothers got involved heavily in the production of Crusade and didn't allow JMS the artistic freedom he needed in order to work. And unfortunately, JMS had to walk away from Warner Brothers and TNT. JMS made several other spin-off attempts, which were also good, but did not get picked up by the networks that they were approached. And there were contractual juggling that made it difficult to continue Babylon 5, since Warner Brothers owned Babylon 5, and it was difficult to bring it to anyone else besides Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers at the time was not ready to move forward and spend that kind of money to make a new show. Babylon 5 had a great cast. It had Bruce Boxleitner as John Sheridan. Bruce had plays as Tron, the Gambler, How the West Was Won, Scarecrow and Mrs. King. Mira Furlan played Delenn, the Minbari. Had a great character art, was very well known in a war-torn European nation that she had managed to escape a very talented actress. Probably two of the most memorable characters are Londo Mollari from the Great Centaur Republic, who played an aristocrat with Napoleonic influences. Then, of course, there was Jakar, who was played by Andreas Kasoulis. What a great actor. You might know him as the One-Armed Man from The Fugitive, or Tomalak from Star Trek, The Next Generation. Vir Koto, the aide to Londo Mollari, was played by Stephen Furst. Many people will remember Stephen from Animal House. What a great story arc that he had. It truly showed his acting chops by the end of the series. Bill Mumy played aide to Delenn. Very strong, capable aide. He served Delenn well. Bill Mumy, of course, great child actor from the day. You might know him from The Twilight Zone, and he might send you to the cornfield. And of course, who can forget Will Robinson from Lost in Space. Hard to tell with all the makeup, I know. Mr. Garibaldi, played by Jerry Doyle. Jerry was a great actor. He very level-headed, brought a lot of gravitas to his role, and paranoia, strangely enough. Assistant Security Chief to Mr. Garibaldi was Zach Allen, Jeff Conway, and many of you may know him from Grease, and of course you know him from, back in the day, Taxi. Claudia Christensen played the Russian first officer to Sheridan, Ivanova. Trust in Ivanova. Ivanova is God. Season 5 brought us Tracy Scoggins as the new leader of Babylon 5. And who can forget that evil villain from the Psy-Corps, Bester, who was played by our very own Walter Koenig, who was in a little series years ago called Star Trek, and he played young Chekhov. Thank you to JMS for giving Walter Koenig such a juicy role to play, and it was a pleasure to see Walter's star shine. Now, for years, there was a great deal of work done to bring Babylon 5 to the big screen. Unfortunately, the hurdles were too high, and by the time things had been worked out, Babylon's big screen hopes had passed. This was primarily due to so many of the Babylon 5 actors passing on beyond the rim. Unfortunately, many of the Babylon 5 cast has passed away. The great Andreas Kasoulis, Zach Allen, Jeff Conaway, Mira Furlan has recently passed away, who played Delenn. Mr. Garibaldi, Jerry Doyle, has passed on. Richard Biggs, the Doctor, Stephen Franklin, has also passed on beyond the rim. With so many of the original cast gone, it makes it difficult to carry on the stories of the remaining cast with them missing. How do you tell the story of Londo Mollari without Andreas Kasoulis? How do you tell the story of John Sheridan without Delenn? The answer is, unfortunately, a reboot. But as JMS has stated, it's going to be a ground-up reboot with a good mix of the original ideas that made Babylon 5 what it was, plus a good amount of something else. Repeating the same story in the same way would serve no purpose, but making something that is fresh and familiar still is a great noble effort. And we have the creator of Babylon 5, the one who made it happen, involved in show running. JMS is a great writer, and I'm sure we're going to see something great. Now, Star Trek was lucky. They got their show on the air, developed a following, and was the first to ever be able to come back from the canceled heap of TV shows to become a great motion picture. There was talk of the reboot way back then. I remember that Gene Roddenberry used to talk about the network or the movie companies wanting to replace the original actors. Can you imagine Kirk Douglas as Captain Kirk? Might have been interesting, but I'm glad we got our original series guys back up there on the big screen. They also almost rebooted the show, soft reboot of the show on TV, when they almost brought Star Trek back on what would have been the United Paramount Network of its day. It would have been Star Trek Phase 2, and we wouldn't have Spock. Again, that would have probably been closer to the next generation, and an evolution and a continuation, but have basically the same stars from our original show moving forward, which isn't the same as starting them all over from square one, which we later did with the Kelvin universe, the J.J. Abrams Kelvin universe, with varying degrees of success. As I said, we were very lucky with Star Trek and the great longevity of the original series cast and casts that have come afterwards. We are not promised tomorrow, and I'm glad that we've got as much Star Trek as we have. Babylon 5 has continued to make spin-offs of the original series, but now it's time for a reboot of Babylon 5. I wish JMS the best. I am going to be there to see it, and I hope you guys are too. Hey, I have an announcement. There's a Star Trek fan film that I'm in that is coming out, post-production for a long time, and it is called Words Women. Okay, it's going to be out 7 o'clock Central Time. We'll have a link down below. Many of you people know me as Admiral Vandenboss from the Constar Chronicles. This, I will be playing a different character, and I will tell you that he is the second best comm officer in Starfleet. So tune in and watch Words Women. It should be a lot of fun, and I hope you're there. And I hope you're here next week, 9 o'clock, for another episode of Sci-Fi History. Changing times and time. See you later. Bye-bye. Don't worry, I got it.